Hello everyone, my name is Boris, bringing you another WOD review. Today we're hopping in game with the first EMEA Tacticians Cup winner, Reven, playing some ladder games before his scrims for the upcoming TPC 2 over the weekend. Had a little bit of a rough day, but it's not about how we get there, it's all about where we finish. Playing in the Galio encounter, therefore we can expect some very high potential econ augments or item augments with very high board strengths at the end game. Get offered a Jin, and we checked the Aeonia's path with the Prosperous. Given a bow drop, definitely something we could be interested in playing around. Also going to hold around at the Kog'Maw, as we could be playing around Kaisa. Do also pick up a TF, and with the recent MF buff, something that we could consider playing around. We still haven't optimized the way that the new MF could be played. However, in my opinion, the best way would be to play in some kind of Warwick line, and we could potentially lean into that as well. Unfortunately, we only managed to pair up the Jin and do not have a exact clear distinction of frontline, as our only frontline unit right now is really a Blitzcrank 1. For the augment options, therefore, Deadlier Blades would be something we could consider if we had something to support this Jin 2. And it would be nicely if we could have gotten Ionian as well, but we unfortunately do not have that option. Forging Strength would work in comps that you can use many artifacts. Generally, it would be something like the Slayer's comp in the current patch. And in the Prismatic lobby, there is a potential that you just get screwed by your artifacts or are unable to cap out. Therefore, it's a very flippy augment, and sometimes pros prefer not to play around it. Birthday Present with the 1 gold drop. Not as high as string, but it can definitely provide us some nice tempo, and we can hope to hit that upgraded frontliner. Therefore, let's see what we go with. Still considering the Deadlier Blades, due to we will also slump something like a Last Whisper, or a Guardbreaker and leave the bow open. Secrets of the Sand could be played in a Zircon, but again, you will be very much sucking the first 2 stages. Living Forge is a little underpowered, just its tempo is too slow at the moment. And again, if we get offered only a good frontline artifact, we do not have an exact use of it right away. Therefore, it's one of the rare games where we're going to be picking up a Birthday Present. Now, do we level here? Yes, we do. And we managed to pick Kiana 2 and a Briar 2, also from our natural shop. So now we have a proper board right away. We could see if we can toss together some form of a win streak. Now, Birthday Present was one of those augments that was always very fun to play around. And in the current set with a very flex 4 and 5 costs, you have quite a few options. However, in my opinion, it's a little bit of lacking in the departments due to recent leveling changes. If you're playing in an encounter that does not provide extra form of resources, and since we're playing in a prismatic opener, then we can expect that there's going to be people who are going to be pushing levels higher than us, as in a way this is a econ augment. Particularly if you get something that does not work out for you, for your comp, then this unit essentially is just transformed into raw gold. Also have the option to pick up a GP here if we were interested. Instead we're going to push a level again and we get another Briar. Now, obviously we're not going to be going for Briar 3 unless we fully natural it. But going to opt to push the levels here, try to use the early tempo provided by the upgraded units. Unfortunately, we don't have any clear slams, as Last Whisper as a first slam is not the greatest of a thing. Options. We definitely wanted to have a completed item on our carries, and we do drop around here as well, which is quite unfortunate for us. Our streak now is broken, and we would have hoped that we would be able to complete an item right here. Going to opt to go for a chain. We could consider dropping a Titans or a Sunfire. Going to slot in the Ionia now that we finally managed to pick up the pieces. And going to drop a Titans. Therefore, given the path of Prosperous, we are trying to lean into the Ionia board, which is definitely something that has a flex slot that we could slot in from the Birthday Present, and it's going to Prosperous is going to nicely synergize with our wish to push levels as much as we can. And since our streak got broken, it's one way we could try to rebound our economy. However, we face just a Braum and Lysandra board, which is very, very strong on the 1 stars for stage 2. Therefore, going to be dropping around here as well. Going to clear our team planner. Still considering if the Jug or a Slayer are going to be stronger. Generally in stage 2 we wish to play a upgraded units even if we do not exactly share synergies. And now another player with unexpectedness who has a Taric and a Misfortune. Therefore we do drop around. This is the one thing that also Birthday Presnt is suffering in the current meta from, is that in these lobbies where people have these strong directions from their econ augments, from their prismatic augments, sorry, you are quite likely to drop rounds. Birthday Presnt wants to push tempo, however, there are so many prismatic augments that provide more tempo that the augment has slightly felt off the place. We do get offered 4 Ys now, however, we're going to pass up on making it. Unfortunate that we do the drop at Seraphine now, however, our items don't exactly work out in it with the Titan Slam. We could still consider playing it as some form of Warwick, however, we opted to slam a Nai, therefore I would believe we're most likely committed to this Yunaro. Also picked up a Cyan from the Birthday Presnt, now be able to get 3 Noxus in with a Reven pair that we have been holding on for quite a while. Reven being one of the nicer ways to transition into Yunara, particularly if you 2-star Reven, the Reven's going to be stronger. Coming up now, we get after restart mission. That was completely new car econ, definitely not an option. Best Friends is something you could consider if we scouted around and saw that there's definitely in a AD lobby. Rolling for this is also going to be a good econ option if you wish, as that would not tank our gold count and we would perhaps be able to push level 9 faster. Therefore, it looks like we're going to be defaulting that. TG is something that we can definitely, I would lean towards more here. Yeah, TG just simply allows us to have some form of item when we get to the higher levels. It's also in the unit, even if it doesn't exactly work out, because one of the things, again, with the Birthday Presnt is you're playing around this AD core. What happens if you level up and get a AP unit? Now, generally, obviously, TG is not going to be the best option, but at least we have something that we can toss on it. And particularly if you get a frontline unit, then or a fighter, then the TG is going to work out quite nicely. Leveled again and still continuing in our loss streak, so definitely not the spot we would want to be in the Birthday Presnt. Going to see how we can climb back in the game. Get offered a Azir, and now if we're able to make it to a Renekton, then we definitely have the items to play around it. This is one of the trickier bits. Going to opt to drop the Scion in favor of a Taric. Generally goes in frontliner. And going to transfer our items to the Jinx. Now, we dropped the Vi earlier, if I believe, therefore we are unable to unlock the Warwick, and I'm not going to be considered playing around it. This is very, very open game still. It's going to see how we manage to pilot the spot, as we have managed to string around. However, if we scout around, we just saw that the boards in this lobby, as always with the prismatics, are quite strong. And currently our front line is locking in power. Picked up a bow that could also transition into something like a Rage Blade if we wish to stay playing around this Azir. Generally, we would wish to play this Azir in form of some kind of Lissandra Seraphine comp. However, with these items, and given that we already see there's another Liz player here with, again, Liz Braum, and I believe there is one more player playing into the line, we would want to steer away from it if possible. If we do drop another round here, then we do have the option for unlock a Nasus. However, our life count is, at this point we have to start becoming a little concerned. We're not particularly rich. We do not, I believe, have a clear way of spiking right away on stage 4. Therefore, we'll have to see how we can climb back, as we do want to get as much combat power going into stage 3 and perhaps then string together a win streak to unlock a Renekton. Picking up the Nasus here, that's going to sort our frontline problems. And also need to know that we are not that far away from potentially unlocking a Rise. That would be a very interesting game. Kid dropped a Rage Blade and something into perhaps a Kraken. However, I would be looking first now to complete the frontline items, going to level to see what we get. We do get dropped a Yunara, which works out perfectly with our items. You can just slam the Rage Blade right away, yeah. Now we're going to probably look for a frontline item. I'm going to pick up the Bramble Vest, leaving open a belt and a cloak that could most likely, but either of those can transition into some form of Sunder if we wish to. Now the Fizz gets on our backline, however, thankfully, now unfortunately the Fizz is able to take our Yunar out, and particularly since we are positioned away to unlock Set, he has free pickings on our backline. Coming up on the Augment top selection, Bronze for Life is something that we could consider playing into, given we're quite open, but however we do not have exact way to string together the board right away, and at this HP total we definitely want to wish something in the form of either instant combat power or opportunity to upgrade our board through the commerce score. Celestial Blessing again will be playing more in a melee comp, not particularly something that we're looking right away, so most likely going to roll that first, or either Bronze of Life. Up to roll commerce score, so we assume that we are currently rich enough, I guess, or we simply wish to have form of combat power. Our board is quite unupgraded. We definitely would have to have a 2-star frontliner, and we are sitting on about 20 years gold. Therefore, okay, we're just going to go for Money Monsoon. Yeah, I was thinking that we might have defaulted commerce score there before if you're looking for an econ option. However, seem not to prefer it as much. I'm going to transition the TG to Set, great user for that, and transition the tank items to the Nasus, which is generally a very strong tank unit, frontliner. Still continuing to lose as we are holding onto some gold. However, even if we picked up a couple of, well, we have the gold influx coming in, and we have the Zillion that could help us push levels. However, I'm not sure if just pushing level 9 here would be able to get us stabilized. This is a very one of those hard spots where we are pretty much down to 2 lives. Now, and with the level 9 changes, this is going to be quite expensive. Even if you level, and if we hit something that we cannot use, we essentially just have 14 gold. Now, thankfully we have managed to kill enough, so this should still be at least... No, okay, we are at 11. So we are on 1 life right now. We definitely want to look for a way to spike. I'm going to pick up a belt to complete the Sunder. And the Path of Ionia hasn't really farmed us that much gold either, since we haven't been killing that many units. Now, can we come back into this game? Going to still opt for the level, is exact 0, able to pick up an Azir 2. However, is that going to be enough? This is still very scary with an unupgraded front line. Queuing into another Yunara player who are thankfully still on Yunara 1. And we are in the correct position with the Bramble Vest, so is this going to be long enough a stall? We are managing, still quite close fight with the Zerset comes in. However, the Zillion bombs go off and the upgraded Azir working as a pseudo frontline is able to stall for us long enough. Now with this HP count, we obviously won't be able to go for a Zerath. Therefore, if you're able to get a 3 Shurima with a Renekton and string together a couple of more wins, we have a potential. Going to opt to slot in a Sena, drop down to 3 Ionia. Still not able to find any form of upgraded frontliner, however they're fighting Ornn 2, which you would think would be a good tank, but really isn't, and we're fighting a Nanny and a Lysandra that only has a death cap, so definitely high roll the matchmaking a little bit here from a player who has also pushed level 9, but we do not drop around, and we are now through 1 life. The single unit loss has put us... If we had taken a bigger loss, obviously we'd be dead. Never, just losing by single unit, alright, it's fine. Now, if we do win, I believe we have the option to unlock a Zerath now, actually. Do manage to finally string together the Nasus 2. This is one of the things that about the sets, and particularly as you can see the meta developing to roll more around a level 8 for 3-star 4 costs, is that your 4 cost odds only increase by 3% by going to level 9. On level 9 you were generally going there for these increase in the 5 cost odds, as those have been buffed from the last set. Therefore, I was surprised with the play that we did to opt to level right there, as that could have gone quite flippy. Now we managed to make his PV and have managed to finally string together a proper front line with Taric and Nasus 2 and also have hit our set. Now we should be quite strong, fighting another Ionia player. This is one of the things to always watch out for in the resource generating Ionia paths. Thankfully it's a ghost board, however they do have very strong combat augment in the form of a comeback story. Generally can be played in quite a few comps, and is considered as one of the stronger combat augments in the game right now. If you're able to capitalize on those spots, however, you have to be realistic that sometimes it's not required. Able to swap our position and dodge the Fizz, however, the exact angle of the Yunara is not going to be the greatest. Fizz still already terrorizing our backline. However, thankfully, with the Kindred ult, we're able to get enough big of a shield in our backliner so it doesn't take it out. Able to string together a win here, and now we are one turn away from a Zir. Hope to go for a Gunslinger emblem here, which is interesting. Now, as we already saw him checking the stats, he's going to probably be tossing that Gunslinger emblem on the Yunara. That is going to pair together with the Senna we have managed to upgrade as well. And Yunara generally tossing out a lot of attacks is going to be able to apply that armor reduction provided from the emblem quite effectively, as each instance of this damage is going to apply it and also going to apply to all the splash damage it does. Now managed to pick up the Renekton, which is going to be a considerable power spike on our board. Now who do we opt to drop here? So we have the Renekton up. No, that's Nasus. Yeah, here we go. Now we have an option for Renekton too. Going to opt to drop the Taric. Alright, going to keep the synergies away. Taric with the nerfs, not the greatest of the tanks. Able to transition also these items quite nicely on a Renekton. Champion that does not mind attack speed. Generally would prefer something like a QSSS, but we have to do what we have to do with. And now we have a very strong board coming up from a very rough spot. And let's see how far we come in now. It also, 3 players died that round, so we have managed to sneak our way into the top 3 already. I would still be looking to... Yeah, now we are really feeling the pressure of having luck of items, right? We have all these very strong units, however, we are not unable to itemize them. I'm going to pick up a healing item to sustain that Renekton. I'm able to also pick up a Volley 2 and a Kindred 2. Now definitely we are quite strong. Going to toss the Vow on a Volley 2 for him to be able to get to his 3rd cast a lot sooner. Sorry, 4th cast that is. Getting a Stormbringer form online and then going fully ham. Going against the Bilgewater board from the going long. Finally the Fizz again is not able to completely wreck our backline right on the way. Even with the... After receiving the nerfs, now he has gone back to 10 mana, which makes him, I believe, even more annoying of a unit to be playing around. Definitely want to be seeing if you can dodge him at any kind of position. Fighting the other Ionia player who has managed to pick up a set 2, but also seem to be running into the item troubles, as they have not able to manage to itemize their set and have to opt to go for an RE secondary carry. Extremely strong fight, slows fight, but able to sneak out a win by a single unit. Now you can see the power in that comeback story augment. Like, our board visually seems to be very strong, and well, perhaps we do not have the best of both items. We have fewer raw unit power from the econ augments provided, however, comeback story making that difference. Now the Fizz is now our backline. Thankfully does not catch him, the Yunara. And seems to jump away, takes out our Yunara. How now can the Renekton and Set finish it up? I believe that we have managed to finally put enough meat in front of them, and they notice that that's enough. And we have managed to string a win. Very nicely to see Reven identify the very niche plays in the close calls to be able to win out this lobby. I would like to thank you for watching, and I hope that you learned something new as I did, and I wish to see you in the next one. Have a good one.